everybody will get the notification that it's live, and then they start freaking out. Hey, we don't see anything. You're not saying anything. There's just some two men looking back and forth, or the screen is black.
Right, exactly.
All right, and we're in 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's about time we get to do this. Welcome to Real Hospitality Live. I have, and I don't think we're going to negotiate on this. I have the legendary Bobby Shaw with me today. How you doing?
Thanks, Chef Jason. How are you doing?
Oh, you know what? I'm doing great. I'm so glad we get to do this. We've been talking about doing this since last August, when you were still, I think you were still just doing the final notes or just finishing off getting the book finished up, and you hadn't started the podcast yet. Let me give you a proper introduction, my good man. Bobby Shaw has been an exec in the food industry, in the restaurant industry for many, many years. He has been recognized in 2016 by fastcasual.com in their annual top 100 as a top 25 executive. Has held senior executive positions with McDonald's, Chipotle, Freebird's World Burrito, and is now the president of Bobby Shaw Consulting. Also, the now best-selling author of his new book called Cutting Onions, and he is the host of the Cutting Onions podcast. There, it's all out.
Thank you so much for that, Jason. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You've been rocking the book, man.
You know what? It's been such a great journey. It's been out for about a month now, just over a month, and it launched last month in Nashville, and it's been received really, really well. And I'm so honored and so appreciative of all the support that I've gotten from the people who've read it so far, and I've just gotten some great feedback on it.
Signed copy.
That's right. I can make that happen. I know a guy. I know a guy.
This is good. Right. You know, you and I hit it off right away when in our first phone conversation, which was about an hour and a half as I was standing in the parking lot as we were traveling across the country, actually,
right,
with my family. And I think we hold a lot of the same values as far as leadership within the industry, how employees are treated, how we both reward and teach and culture and build culture. We have a lot of that. I mean, the tagline on your book is leadership lessons learned from the restaurant industry. And when I see people come and talk about you and answer and post on your posts about, you know, either your book or your podcast or what's going on with you, everybody has the same positive thing to say. And I think it's so cool that we're kind of we're kindred brothers on what our thoughts are on training and development and education.
We are, you know, it's something I'm super passionate about, Jason. I throughout my entire career, and I talk about this in the book. I mean, the reason why I'm so passionate about this today, you know, 37 years into my career, whatever it is that I had someone invest in me when I was a young employee. They saw something in me I did not see in myself. And they actually invested in me. Like, I didn't have any huge aspirations of, you know, growing up through the ranks in the restaurant industry and, you know, someday becoming a leader. I didn't even know what that was. Right. But they saw something in me. They saw the work ethic. They saw the pride in which I approached my work. They saw, you know, I think a fair amount of you know, potential that needed to be cultivated, that, you know, needed to be drawn out of me. And I've held on to that since 1984. And every time I have taken a new position, every time I've, you know, begun a new part of my career, I've always remembered that, and I've always strived to make sure to pay that forward. It's been very important to me.
Absolutely. And you know what, is the industry, people say, and I say all the time about, you know, what you learn in this industry are transferable skills, whether they're people skills or their time management skills or their organizational skills, and regardless of whether or not you decide that you're going to be a lifer like us, and because of the love of the industry that gradually comes, or you're going off to something else. I mean, it's something that you can carry with you, and all of these things are just absolutely key things that you're not going to learn in the same way in other places as intensely.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important too for everyone to know, Jason, is that this isn't about, I mean, yes, these are restaurant, these are industry lessons from the restaurant industry. They are leadership lessons from the industry, but they apply to every segment, to every field, to every discipline. And it's how to develop people, how to build a strong culture, how do you recognize top performers, all those things that are really essential no matter what line of work that you're in.
Yeah.
But I do smile when I think about the way the publisher launched my book. The way they kind of launched it initially was everyone should work in the restaurant industry at least once, right? Just to get some appreciation. And I think that certainly that's no more true than right now, right? Where you see all these opportunities that people have, and again, it's about that opportunity. It's about creating opportunities for people that otherwise wouldn't exist.
Yeah,
and that's my story, and that's certainly what I've strived to do in my career.
I mean, you were a McDonald's man for what, 17 years?
17 years, yeah.
Yeah. And
Spent
I mean,
6 years as a franchisee, and
what
then 10 years company. So
what better learning ground, right, than with the biggest restaurant company on the planet?
yeah,
And I get a lot of my motivation from even with teaching, and just a little bit of the grit from Ray. Uh,
yes.
I mean, I have you actually read the book, or have you've everybody's seen the movie, but the
Oh,
book?
oh yeah, I have.
Oh,
Oh, such a great book. Such a great book. I have it. It's in my library actually. I love that book. And you're so right about McDonald's. I mean, that was such an important time for me because
yeah,
all those early skills I learned that are really kind of the bedrock of really what I've been able to build on over the years. But it was all around those things you hear: QSC&V, right? Quality, service, clearness, and value. It's funny to hear those even today, that are shared by other people, but that's where it all started. And Ray certainly did his part. So
oh yeah, for sure. I think the having the systems in place and having the discipline in place in an environment where it's everything has to be fast. Every day is your measure.
yep,
So at the end of the day, that's your measure. How did we do today? Now what did we learn today? How can we adjust that for tomorrow? When people say, oh, well, the restaurant industry is tough. When I look at the restaurant industry, I think that's exactly the measure. It's show business, right? So how was the
yeah,
show today? And
yeah.
what did we miss? What can we do? What can we learn? And how can we, put that into place to make a better show tomorrow?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's always about getting better. And that has to be the way we look at it, right? You can't
Yeah.
rest on your past successes.
Right.
You have to challenging what you've done in the past. And I think that that's what great organizations do. They figure out what's worked for them, but then what can they do to tweak that model? And I think that's incredibly important.
Like you were part of the big expansion too for Chipotle. I mean, almost
I
100
was,
restaurants.
yeah.
Uh, I
I
mean,
started with Chipotle in 2002, and when I started, we had less than 200 restaurants.
yeah,
And when I left Chipotle in 2012, we had over 1,200. So it was a significant amount of growth over those 10 years, and I was super lucky enough to be a part of that. And you know, uh, just a really another great example of somebody seeing something in me as a young multi-unit leader back in 2002, and providing me an opportunity to do something with that.
yeah,
And so I was able to do that. But yeah, we opened an astronomical number of restaurants, and even in my region, which covered 11 states in the South part of the U.S. One of the things that we learned very early on was that we had some great talent inside these restaurants, and we needed to create a platform with which they could have some of those opportunities that we talked about earlier.
yeah.
And so that's what we did, and it was super fun. It was super fun.
I am a big fan of the transparency of Chipotle, and even the business model. And I
Yep.
love that. I love that McDonald's saw in Chipotle what the potential was too, and to be able to implement those systems and say, hey, you know what, these is what you need to grow, and for them to invest and then eventually pull out. But I mean, that really built the foundation for that organization, right?
Well, and to their credit, McDonald's did not come in and muscle in to the brand, right? They were learning, right? They were investing. They were obviously our primary investor uh, for a few years, and but they were very good about allowing Steve Ells to kind of continue creating what he'd already created. And
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure that would happen today, Jason. I'm not sure that a brand like McDonald's would go in and purchase a brand today and give the autonomy like they did to Chipotle,
Yeah.
1998 when they made that initial investment. And it was really an exciting time. And I remember, this conversation in restaurants is, people would come in and say, "Oh, you're owned by McDonald's." No, we're not really owned by McDonald's. We're like our rich uncle. And that's how we would kind of describe it to people, right? Because we wanted them to know that we were on our own, like we stood on our own, right? We were our own entity, but we certainly benefited from that investment from McDonald's. It was really an exciting time, and that's what allowed us to really grow as much as we did, pre-IPO.
Now, and forgive me for not knowing this, but are they all corporate stores?
All corporate stores.
Yeah.
All corporate stores. So in the early 2000s, and I had a couple of these, there was a very brief experiment with franchising.
Yeah.
And you know what? In the end, we decided, hey, you know what? It'll be better for us if we maintain the control. So we had maybe 5 franchisees across the country, a very small percentage of stores.
Yeah.
And we decided to keep them all company owned. So yeah, they're all company owned, which is pretty exciting.
I think there's 2 sides to that conversation for franchising and for corporate. I mean, I've been on both sides.
Yeah.
And at least with corporate, you can instill your ideals and kind of hold that thing, and you don't have somebody who's also an owner of their own business who wants to tell you that they don't want to do your idea.
Exactly.
They just refuse to.
Right. And that is, I think, a challenge. I think that is a challenge in some organizations, with franchising is you have someone who comes in and they have their own way of approaching it. But then if you look at the other side of it, we have set, quality expectations and set, things that we want to have followed. And everyone has an FDD, everyone has a disclosure document that, got to adhere to the, so, but it's it's a hard world. Franchising's a hard world, but
oh yeah, I know.
but there's a lot of people who've done it really well, right? And McDonald's is certainly one of those groups. So
yeah, I've worked with both sides of that, and I mean, I love when franchisees embrace it, and and they love the idea and they want to be involved and they also want to share success. But I don't love when they don't.
No, absolutely not.
And it makes it hard to create a culture in that way too. I mean, I kind of want to use that to tie in a little bit to creating a restaurant and corporate culture where everybody kind of sees the vision, everybody sees what the show is supposed to be, and understands that when people come to the restaurant or come to the show, they're expecting to see a particular quality of cleanliness and of product and of flavors and consistency and all of these things. How did you kind of approach getting in there and building that common culture?
So it's interesting. So when I joined Chipotle after spending so long at McDonald's, I had to almost had to learn what to bring with me and what to leave behind, right? And so the things I brought with me were things around processes and how to get things done the right way, and those were very helpful things. But I was working, what I like to say is that when I worked at McDonald's, I really learned how to manage. When I went to Chipotle, I really learned how to lead. And I think that's a very important distinction. And so all of a sudden I was in this whole new world where I was working in a scratch kitchen, which I'd never done before.
Right.
And so I had a lot to learn, right? So the first thing I had to do was I had to humble myself and say, look, I don't know this model, and everyone around me knows it a lot better than I do. I have a lot of experience, but I need to learn. And I think that's really important, because I think sometimes experience can be overrated. I think sometimes people come in with, certain things on their resume and, it looks great, but it was a completely different application. It was a completely different concept. And so I think having that humility coming in from McDonald's to Chipotle really helped me kind of rally the team around me. And again, I was a multi-unit leader at the time with 5 restaurants, right? So my span of control at the time was very, very small.
Yeah.
But it gave me an opportunity to really kind of grow up with that team, and that was huge. And so as we rolled out things around, you know, how to do things better and make improvements, and then we started talking about culture. We started talking about how do we create this culture. So what we recognized as a brand, I remember being in the room and we all had kind of this light bulb moment of every time we hired someone from the outside, 8 times out of 10, those people would fail. And it's not because they didn't have experience. It's not because they weren't great people. It's not because you know, they didn't have the right things on their resume. They didn't understand the culture. So it was during that time at Chipotle. This would have been 2006 and 7 when we really got started on this. That's when we realized all this internal talent inside of the restaurant that we already had.
Right.
That awesome person working tortilla, you know, that awesome person in the back grilling chicken. Like
Right.
those people had never been given an opportunity to do more. And what we found out is a lot of people wanted to do more.
Yeah.
And so we created a whole curriculum, if you will, around how to develop that talent internally. And that's what really fueled the growth and really fueled the culture.
I think being as an employee, when I was a much younger man, the
Right there with you. So I'm right there. I'm right there with you. You can't see my gray because I don't have any in my head.
It's in there.
It's there.
It's in there. It's in there. I believe
It's
you.
there.
For me, it was always, you know, what can I learn next? What can I learn next? What can I
That's
learn
right.
next? Right. I've got this figured out. I could do this well enough and repeat it. Then now what? Because if I have to do this for too long, I'm going to go insane. So I have to learn something else, and then I have to learn something else. And I think most people are that way. I mean, there are the minute few who just want to be a part, you know, a cog in the machine, and they're happy
Right.
to do that and leave. I was never that guy, and
Right.
right, and I think a lot of people are that way. And if you approach them and say, hey, you know what, we love what you're doing a great job. You've reached your peak on this particular station, or in this position. Now let's put you up to somewhere else, so where you can, you know, possibly teach somebody else to do what you're doing well, or to go to another station and learn that, and some manner of motivation in there too.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
No, it's so important. And so what we did is we actually created a roadmap for someone to do just that. Right. So someone who was excellent in the back of the house or excellent in the front of the house, we put them with a roadmap, helping them understand, okay, here's what I need to learn. Here's what I need to do. Here's how I'm going to get there. So it was really a map. It was really a visual map. And then it was the responsibility of the GM to coach that person up, to give them all sorts of support and feedback along the way. And that's how we built it.
I used to set up, when I was doing consulting with restaurants, I would set up different stations in the kitchen where you would get, if you wanted a raise, you had to learn the next station. And then you'd have to learn the next station, if you wanted to get, and this is even in corporate kitchens, not in the brigade hierarchy.
Right.
Right. So, and that's a different animal completely. But
Totally.
if you're coming to me looking for the raise, well, do you know the next station? Right. So now,
Which I love your approach to that. That's really fantastic. That's a great way to do it.
well, it's the monetary motivation, and also the respect amongst the peers. Hey, I can handle these 3 stations. Yep. I can pop in at any point in time, or I can handle all of them. And now I'm in a supervisory position, and then eventually you get into there, right? So
that's right. Because it's that know, tell, do, review, and do again, right? It's you know, it's one thing to be able to do it, but can you teach it, right? And that's critical.
You know, it's funny. I have I did a show with my good friend Dave Durpak and Christine Cuvelier about a couple months ago now, and they're one of the top R&D chefs in the world, and one of the best educators in the country for here. And the two of them have a consulting company, and their company is based on how to teach educators how to educate within the culinary world. So, and a lot of times we go from, hey, I know how to do this job, like I know how to do this station, or I know how to run this kitchen, or I know how to do these systems, but I have no idea how to teach it.
Right.
right?
Right.
And we fall into that position in the education world, in culinary arts, where we're putting people who are totally qualified to go and work in that job, but not necessarily qualified to teach it.
100%.
Right.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah. And that's what you have to guard against, right? And that's what you have to make sure you got the right people. It's all about clear roles and responsibilities, right? What are you best at, and putting you where you're going to be able to contribute the most. I think that's where, when people start to thrive in those areas, then it's easier for them to think about, okay, what's next, and what can I do differently? How can I take what I've done here and use that momentum, to help me in another area? So,
yeah. I think
for sure.
I think not starting everybody on the same station or on the same thing is a good idea too. I mean, for me, I've never been, oh, you've got to be the fry guy, you've got to be the
Yep.
the garde manger, you've got to be the saucier.
Right.
It's never that way. It's let's get you interested. Where would you
Yeah.
like to start? Where would you like to learn?
That's key. What do you enjoy doing? What
Right.
is interesting to you?
What do you want to learn?
Give them their best chance for success, and their best chance for success is going to be you to start them in an area they're actually interested in doing. Totally.
I always thought it was funny that in any place I'd go into, that the grill man or the grill person always thought that they were the key to the whole thing until
Yep.
something else goes down. And
That's right.
and I have no issues putting somebody on and teaching them grill first. I just
Yep.
don't. Right. I mean,
Yep.
if you're going to learn this is your station. It's not an easy station to learn, and it's going
Yep.
to take you longer probably. But once you get it down, then you've got it, and then you can go on to the next thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is a higher station than the others.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just a different skill set, right? It's just a
Absolutely.
yeah, totally agree.
I think when we talk about skill set too, I mean, regardless of whether or not we're talking front of the house, the back of the house, management, whatever, everybody learns their own way. Everybody teaches in their own way, and everybody's interested in something different. Sometimes people just are interested in going and getting behind the bar, but maybe that bartender's interested in learning how to cook something. And
Right.
the more interested you keep staff, and the longer you'll keep them.
Yep. And I think it's important to recognize that some people are just in a point in their life where they want to do that one thing, right? That's what works for them right now. I remember in Houston, I had a kitchen manager that was more than qualified to take the next step. But for where he was in his family, like, he had to stay in that position. So he stayed there. But what I've always said is, it's totally fine. Like, you can stay in that position for as long as you want, as long as you continue to get better, and as long as you continue to develop people that are as good or better than you are.
Right.
And that's what he did. And just year after year, he would turn out fantastic kitchen managers for the Houston market. And then eventually he was ready to take that next step to service manager.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually he was ready. And so we need people that are in every position, right? We need those core people that are there that want to do that role. And what I always told people is, but I know not everybody we hire is going to be a GM for us, but I want them to know they can be. Like, I want them to know they have that ability to grow. They have that ability to follow a career path. I think that's so important for people, because they need to know that there's more if they want more. So
the possibility rather than the probability in there is huge, to be able to say, you know what, let's give you all the tools that you can to get there. And even if that's something you don't decide to do, but you're capable of being every part of this family, this organization, then that is meant to fulfill you as much as it is to fulfill our needs.
That's right. I love that.
I always a proponent of education. I'm always a proponent of training, and hands-on as much as possible. And what I have conversations with organizations all the time who are, oh, we've got a retention problem in the industry. What we have is a training problem within the industry.
That's right.
Right? People don't feel welcome. They don't feel like they're valued, and Dwayne Keller and I always say somebody's not somebody can't be an ROI. What's my money back on this guy? What's he worth?
Right.
You know, if we run the industry that way, then we end up with the industry that we have, where we're in a position where all we can do is complain that, oh, well, this person wants an extra $1 an hour so that they can live.
Yep. You know, and I think it starts, you're so right about that. And it starts with the onboarding, right? It starts with how we onboard our new employees, because that's where they get their first exposure to the brand, right? So it's the recruiting, the interviewing, the onboarding. How successful we onboard employees has a lot to do with their retention, right? And even how well they get trained and how well is their training set up. How often do you hear stories of people, Jason, that they're hired and, you know, then they're handed a shirt and a hat and they go to work? It happens all the time. And that's what we have to guard against. That is that is not creating the right platform with which for them to be successful. So 100%.
So you've got the book, which is out, available in stores, available on Amazon, right?
It is. It's really available on Amazon, a lot of other e-retailers. So it's out there.
The podcast.
Yeah. So the Cutting Edge podcast. So I have been dreaming of doing this. Well, and you and I talked about it last summer.
We have to give a shout out to our buddy Andrew.
We do. Andrew Craig.
Us, and I think he was one of your first guests, and he was one of my first guests, and now he's one of my dear friends, Andrew Craig. And thanks, brother, for being the connection here.
We had such a great conversation. He actually was flying to Houston for something else. He drove from Houston to Austin to meet me in a restaurant with his son, and we did an amazing interview.
I heard it.
It's how we got connected. So it's how you and I got connected.
That's right.
That's really exciting. So my whole desire to start the Cutting Edge podcast was to give a voice to how important culture is and why culture matters. So that's kind of my tagline is we want to recognize leaders that have done a tremendous job of building a strong culture and developing other leaders. So my 26 episodes I have up so far, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of really amazing leaders, some in the restaurant space, some not, because again, what we're talking about here, these are all universal lessons of leadership. And so it's fantastic to hear people who come from a different perspective and who have a different idea about what that means. I mean, it's how we all get better. And so the podcast has gone very, very well. I'm getting ready to launch another episode soon. I'm thinking maybe Chef Jason McBride needs to be on my podcast. I'm saying,
I would be absolutely honored. I would be absolutely
serious about that. No, I think it'd be fantastic. And so it's been very well received, and it's been great to hear the feedback from people on the things they pull out of it, right? Because much like writing a book or having a podcast or with what you do, you hope it connects with people. You hope it connects with them in an authentic way and in a way that they're able to personally take something from that and apply it to their own leadership. And that's really what this is about. This is, for me, whether it's the book or whether it's the podcast or anything else I do, it's about inspiring greatness in others, right? It's about inspiring the greatness that's already there. It just might be latent. It just might not have been developed and coached and so that's my passion. So
I have to give the kudos to you for writing the book. I mean, I obviously barely have time to shave, let alone write a book. That's where this came from. I wish I had
that problem. This is it. That you might be able to see. That's all I can do. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's all I can do. So.
How the hell do you get organized to sit down and do that? I mean, after 37 years in the industry, all right, now I've got all of this information, all of this knowledge and experience that I want to put into something that I can share with others, and to be able to even to break it down. For me, I'm kind of in the process of doing some stuff like that with some training materials that I've designed and that I teach in post-secondary and whatnot. But I cannot get organized enough to be able to put it into a package, and I'm going to get beat over the head.
I'll tell you exactly how I did. Like, I know my limitations, right? Like, I mean, I've written a lot of blog posts. I write a lot. I love to write. But the idea of sitting down and doing that and putting it all together is so, I just need to, so I went out and I actually hired a coach. I said, hey, help me with this. And over the course of about a year, this team helped me. You know, it's actually a husband and wife team, and they're just fantastic. And just in case they're watching this, I want to give them a shout out. But Jim and Chris Howard with Morgan James Publishing, who's my publisher,
Awesome.
They're the ones that helped me create this. And so they met with me, they did weekly calls with me, and they literally just pulled it out of me, and we wrote the book. It was a great experience. But what I had to do first, really to answer your question, is I had to write an outline. Like, what do I want to say? Like, what are the main topics? What are the subtopics? And, you know, in the end, what is it that I want people to get out of this? And so I had to answer those questions first.
That's how we get any projects done around here. I'm always the one with the wild ideas, but Robbie makes me sit down and figure it out. She's the organized brains of the operation. So she's always, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And my eyes starts to twitch.
That's right. Well, because to you, it makes total sense in your head already. Like, you already know.
Yep.
But Robbie, she's like, what?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't understand. And I'm like, and I think I've said this genius thing. And she goes, no, I don't get it.
Love it. I love
Bobby,
that.
this has been awesome. We need to do this a lot more.
Oh, no, Jason, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited for you that you got the book on shelves now. People can download it. Everybody go catch Bobby's podcasts. If you're in the industry, and even if you're not in the industry, this is a great opportunity to learn from, as I say, a legend. This is
always learning.
And you know what, that's what keeps us interested in being in the industry anyway.
That's right. 100%.
Always something else, right? Always something fun to see and do and try and go, oh, I never thought of that. This
right.
In this many years, I never thought of that. That was a great idea. You know, and you know, I love your approach to again, like I said before, to culture and to, you know, bringing the things you've learned and to sharing those things. So everybody go check out the book, check out the podcast, sign up, follow my good friend on LinkedIn, Bobby Shaw. Thanks so much for your time today, Bobby.
Thank you, Jason.
Do we have questions?
There is one in there, yes.
There's one in there. I have to pop this open.
And there is a hello from Andrew Craig.
Andrew says hello.
Oh, he's watching. Oh, so nice.
And Mike Rutherford says, you're speaking a language so many need to hear. How are you working with mentoring groups today? So you're consulting with your own consulting business, Bobby.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah, great question. So thanks for asking that, Mike. So I'm doing a couple different things. One thing I'm doing that I'm really excited about is I'm actually working with a group of young entrepreneurs here in Austin. And these are young leaders who they want to build something. And I think that's, you know, when you meet someone for the very first time, what's the question that you typically get asked the most is, what do you do? And so I've been working with the Gallup organization and their great book, Born to Build, where they're trying to change that dialogue nationally from, you know, saying, what do you do to what are you building? Because that's a very different response, right? So I'm working with this group of 20 young leaders in Austin that are from all different industries that are looking to do something. They're looking to create something, to build something. And so I'm working with that group. I'm also currently working with Teriyaki Madness, which is a mid-sized chain based out of Colorado, Denver, Colorado, and working with that organization as well to, you know, how do you help grow and scale the brand and franchisee growth and, you know, the things that we were talking about earlier. So I've been working with them on that as well and putting in some processes and systems to really help them be able to do that, which has been super fun. But you know what? Mike's right. It's always the same message. It's always about culture. It's always about people development. And I think now more than ever, it's imperative that we tell that story. So
For sure. That's awesome that you're working with a group of young
yeah,
people. Pass that on.
yeah.
I'm sure that it's as fulfilling for you as it is for what they're getting out of it too.
It is, because when I see the eyes light up and I see these ideas starting to percolate, and then I see them go from being an idea to actually getting on paper and into a journal, and then they start to make some action steps around that, and then we get back together and we talk about how that's going. That's where I get my joy from. So
that's what I love about teaching is just seeing the light up, seeing the light bulb go on, and people get more interested and people lean forward a little more. And
right.
Like Robbie says, to me, she says, go teach for a while. It's good for your soul.
It is. And I'll say this about this too, Jason, is that every time you teach something, you learn something.
Mm-hmm.
This is why when I'm in a restaurant and I teach this and coach this with all young leaders, I don't care if you know what the recipe is or not, or what it is that you're about to go coach. Pull that recipe card out. Have that card out with you while you're coaching and teaching. They know that you know the recipe. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to set the right example for them. So when they teach somebody else, the first thing they do, they go pull that card. They go pull the recipe out, right? So nobody's too good to always teach and to teach using the tools we have. So
that's right. Well, like I said, I think it's awesome that you're sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, being able to instill these transferable skills and systems into working with young people and working with organizations. You're a treasure, my friend.
Oh, Jason, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Take care. Enjoy your day. I hope it's a sunny, beautiful day in Texas.
It is a sunny day today.
Gray, but spring finally sprung. So
there you go.
That. Again, follow my friend Bobby Shaw. Go check out his book and check out his podcast. And if you're following us on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Periscope, say hello. And if you're on Facebook, be sure to continue to follow and join our Facebook group, Real Hospitality Network. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you.